Hey everybody, welcome into Redacted on this Tuesday. So glad to have you here. On this show, we try to navigate this crazy clown world together and cover the stories the mainstream media does not. And we just seek the truth on this show, and we have no agenda. So thank you all for subscribing and being a part of our great community.
That's right. Today is Tuesday. And again, we have a programming note that we are live today. And this is our last live show for a while. But we hope you're still subscribed to Redacted. We hope you come back while we are away, because we will have original content, things you haven't seen here before. So this studio, you are with us right now in its farewell tour.
Yeah, this is our final show in this nice little studio here.
Yeah, it's been a great run. I may get emotional, as this wraps up. It's been a great run here, but we have a lot in store for you. So Redacted's growing. You're coming with us. But today, we're going to talk about war because we are an anti-war show. And so anti-war voices need to get louder as NATO's war drum gets louder as well. NATO saying, yes, we are preparing for nuclear war, but we're doing it out in the open. It's transparent, at least. You should be happy.
And the president of Serbia saying that in 3 months, a full-on World War III will begin, and NATO is pushing and agitating for this. So Larry Johnson, former CIA agent, is going to join us with some fascinating insights into how the intelligence community is sort of agitating for war.
Plus, Biden administration is going after farmers and putting more and more onerous tasks on them in the name of tracking bird flu, even though they have everything they need to track bird flu right now. This is something that will increase the cost to farmers, and that cost will be passed on to you. We have a 6th-generation farmer that's going to talk to us and provide some great perspective. Plus, Title IX has been struck down in the federal court. This is the legislation that would put men in women's sports and locker rooms. And guess what? At least 6 states now no longer have to abide by that. So that's pretty awesome.
And also New York City's illegal immigrant problem. It was a sanctuary city. They're fighting back and saying, you know what, maybe we don't want to be a sanctuary city anymore because the city is being destroyed under the weight of illegal immigration. Our friend J.J. Carroll is working on his massive documentary called Treason. And his latest iteration of this takes him to New York City, to Boston, to the East Coast. And he's going to join us with an update on what he's uncovered in New York City. It is astonishing, and we'll share that with you in a moment. But first, thanks, guys, for subscribing to the show and being a part of our great community here. We really, really appreciate you subscribing to us. It's free to subscribe. Whether you're on Rumble, you can follow us on YouTube. I think it's the subscribe button. So thank you for that. And we're going to get to the news in a second. But first, our show today is brought to you by our friends over at HelloFresh. Yes, that's right. Our friends at HelloFresh, where you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. We love it because it involves the kids. You get the recipe cards. The kids love being able to cook with you, and it only takes about 30 minutes. It's really not a lot of time. These are quick and easy recipes, and you can encourage the kids to go onto the website and help you pick out the recipes that you want. And you can actually choose all sorts of different meal options. So maybe you're a veggie person. We are not in our family. We are a meat family, so we love a lot of meat. So you can choose to have more meat, more protein, more healthy food items like that in your diet, and that's exactly what we do. And so you can do that right on HelloFresh's Russia's website. You can mix and match and do all sorts of things like that. They have kid-friendly recipes and all of that. So, and if you're heading out on vacation this summer, you can just update your delivery options, and you can say, hey, I want to take a week off because we're going to be away, and they will hold your items so they won't deliver them while you're away on your vacation. Very, very easy to do. Right now, you guys are going to get free appetizers for life. Get the party started. That's right. When you sign up today, you'll unlock free appetizers for life. Get the party started or enjoy a little pre-dinner treat with an appetizer of your choice in every HelloFresh box for free. All you need to do is go to HelloFresh.com/redacted apps, APPS. That's right. HelloFresh.com/redacted apps for free appetizers for life. One appetizer item per box while the subscription is active. That's free appetizers for life at HelloFresh.com/redacted apps. Well, NATO appears barreling towards World War III. This after President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, offered up a peace agreement, which NATO, unceremoniously crapped all over. Now, Victor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, warning all of us that yes, in fact, NATO is moving to expand, building 3 additional bases, and plans to push us into full-blown war with Russia. Watch.
A NATO úgy akarja segíteni Ukrajnát, hogy létrehoz egy úgynevezett NATO-ukrán missziót. Ez azt jelenti, hogy a NATO fogja koordinálni az Ukrajnának adandó fegyverek átszállítását, létre fognak hozni 3 nagy támaszpontot, ahol átadják a fegyvereket Ukrajnának, de még itt NATO országok területén, Lengyelországban, Szlovákiában, Romániában. Mi erre nem vagyunk hajlandóak. Szerintünk, ahol fegyvereket adnak át, az katonai célponttá válik az ellenség nézőpontjából, és ott bármi megtörténhet. És tehát az ukrán misszió azt jelenti a NATO felől, hogy létrehozza ezeket a fegyverkoordinációs átadási pontokat. A második, hogy a NATO tagállamok pénzt dobnak össze, hogy támogassák Ukrajna katonai erőfeszítéseit, és harmadrészt pedig kiképeznek ukrán katonákat. Van egy vita, hogy a saját területükön vagy Ukrajna területén, de a lényeg, hogy a frontra menő ukrán katonák kiképzésében közvetlen szerepet vállalnak. Most Magyarország ebben nem akar részt venni. És ezt a problémát kellett megoldani. Nyilvánvalóan van rajtunk egy óriási nyomás. 31 tagállam tol bennünket bele, hogy úgy, ahogy ők, mi is álljunk át a béke oldaláról, a háború oldalára.
And he's not the only one. We have Serbian President Vucic also saying the very same thing, that war with Russia will start in about 3 months. So 3 months till a full-blown war. This appears to be what NATO wants, and NATO seems to be getting this. Let's ask former CIA intelligence agent Larry Johnson, who has some impeccable sources on this. I wanted to get Larry's assessment of this from an intelligence perspective, and what is sort of like happening in the back channels right now as this appears to be barreling towards war. Larry, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Hey, Clayton. Great to be with you, man.
So, we see Putin put out this peace proposal the other day, and NATO just immediately just stepped all over it. No, we're not going to be giving back this land. This is not going to happen. And it appears that the only solution from NATO's perspective is like a surrender of Russia, which is not going to happen. So what do you think is happening right now, sort of back channels, to maybe prevent World War III? Or are we heading towards a full-blown World War III?
With respect to your last question, yes, that's where we're headed. Putin he's playing a game of poker with the West, and the West doesn't realize it's not holding any cards. So when you go back and look at the negotiations that took place in March of 22, Putin at that point was willing to let Luhansk and Donetsk stay within Ukraine. That was then. The West, as you correctly noted, crapped all over that, told Zelensky to back out of that. He did. So they didn't get that deal done. So now here we are. Putin has put a new deal on the table. Okay, this deal now says, all right, we're going to keep Donetsk, we're going to keep Luhansk, and we're going to keep Kherson and Zaporizhia. But come to the table and talk. We'll everything else is open. Notice what wasn't on that list. Odessa. So Putin has left Odessa in play for them, giving the West and Ukraine an incentive to save something of Ukraine. And what did the West do? Once again, as you said, crapped all over it. Okay, they missed this opportunity. Next stop, Odessa and Kiev. So the Russians are prepared. They recognize they are at war with NATO. They're not just fighting Ukraine. And Putin made that very clear last week when he spoke before the foreign ministry. And I was in Russia for the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum a week and a half ago. And it was during that week, on Monday, that I think it was Monday, June 4th, June 3rd, there was a decided shift in what both Vladimir Putin was saying, what Foreign Minister Lavrov was saying, and Deputy Foreign Minister Rybkov was saying. They were making it very clear that the West was playing with fire and that Russia was not going to sit back and be a punching bag. That was their bottom line. And so it's up to the West to figure out what it's going to do. The Russians are prepared to go to war. And here's the real problem. The West is delusional. It's out of touch. It believes its own advertisements. And it's in the self-delusional state where they've convinced themselves that Russia is weak, that the only reason Russia's hanging in there is because of China. And so what the Russ really wants to do is go after China, as you saw Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, say just today. They want to fight China. These guys are like a drunk in a bar that's out of control, wants to fight everybody. And like that drunk in the bar, incapable of throwing a punch.
It's really disturbing, and Victor Orban doesn't want to be a part of it, it appears, the Prime Minister of Hungary, as we just played that sound from you. And here he's laying out exactly what he's being told from a NATO perspective. I mean, this is kind of amazing. I mean, here you have a NATO member saying NATO wants to expand, added 3 additional bases, and they want full-blown war with Russia, and we don't want to be a part of it. I mean, I've never seen anything like this happen before.
Right, and Slovakia is saying the same, and Turkey. Now, that's the key one, because the Turks weighed in last week, said, okay, hey, we want to be a part of BRICS. We're tired of getting stiffed by the Europeans for 25 years. We've been trying to get into the EU for 25 years, and they keep, giving us the finger.
Right.
And now Turkey said, okay, we're getting to BRICS. And the Turks told the rest of NATO, hey, if you get into war with Russia, count us out. Why is that important? Turkey represents the second largest military force in NATO. Without Turkey, NATO's an empty shell. Because right now in the U.S. military, the entire strength of the U.S. Army, 455,000. That covers the globe. Russian military is 1.3 million. Normally, any army that's going to get in an offensive action against a defending foe, in this case, Russia would be the defending force, needs a 3-to-1 advantage. Well, do the math. They got 1.3 million. That means you better be going in there with about 4 million folks. They can't even meet the recruiting goals in the United States. The only way they're meeting the recruiting goals now, they lowered, last year they wanted to recruit like 70,000. They missed it. This year they're saying, yay, we're making our goal. Because they lowered the number to 55,000, okay?
Right. This is how they play. Yeah.
When you're lying to yourself like this all the time, and you don't even recognize you're lying to yourself, that's a sign you're in trouble.
And, of course, we learned now the House of Representatives pushing forward with this move to make mandatory registration for service members, men 18 to 26-year-old in the United States into selective service. So as part of a national draft age. So this is really, really scary. I mean, and you heard the Serbian President Vucic also saying that in about 3 months, this is when they're going to war. Like, they're privy to this information, whether through intelligence sources or not. I mean, what from your intelligence sources, when you hear Vucic say something like 3 months, that's when we're heading to war with Russia, or NATO is heading to war with Russia, do your alarm bells go off? Or are you able to confirm, deny anything like that on your side?
Well, from the rhetoric standpoint, in terms of what they're saying, not just what Orban's saying, but what Stoltenberg is saying, what members of Congress are saying. Yeah, I think that's the direction we're headed. But here's the problem. Behind that talk, it's easy to be, talk, tough talk and the bombast and the belligerency. But that means you got to put in place under the U.S. military, what's called JOPS, the Joint Operations Planning Execution System. There's a thing called the tip fiddle. Well, that is the time phase introduction of troops. So tip fiddle means you got to start notifying units, okay, hey, you're going to deploy, and they get the warning, they get an alert order, and then they get a warning order, and then they get a deployment order, and then, so that takes time.
Right.
I know, for example, on the Gulf War, in the war that started in 2003 in Iraq, that whole process started a year out. So I have not heard any word that tip fiddle has actually been activated and that they're starting to move troops. But even if they do that, where are they going to get the troops? They don't. It's not like everybody, England's sitting there, max force, 70,000 guys. Okay? That's how many people Ukraine has lost in 2 months. Just to put it into context. Germans, similar size. Finland, Sweden. I mean, NATO's is a joke. And it's talking, its mouth is trying to cash checks that it just can't actually write.
Is it possible then that we wouldn't see NATO trying to go into a direct hot war with Russia, but rather continue down this path? After all, President Biden over the past few days signing that ridiculous 10-year agreement with Zelensky to funnel billions more in weapons and money into Ukraine for 10 years. I guess really regardless of whoever's president, they know that they wanted to get this done before Biden's replaced in office by Gavin Newsom in the next few weeks. So they want to get this done ahead of time so that Trump can't undermine it, can't pull this money back. Is it possible that it'll just continue to be a sieve where we'll just continue to pour money and weapons to clean out the stocks, but not actually go into a full-blown direct hot war with Russia, or has that ship already sailed?
Well, the U.S. can't figure out what it wants to do, and neither can NATO. Because on the one hand, they continue to talk like, okay, we got to step up and get that funding for Ukraine. Except even Stoltenberg admitted, about 3 weeks ago, hey, all of you NATO countries have promised to ante up for Ukraine. Where's your money? You've refused to pay up.
Right.
So they're not kicking in. And at the same time, the rhetoric is shifting. Well, Russia's a problem, but China's the threat. We got it. And they can't stop the Houthis, for God's sake. These guys are wearing sandals and carrying curved daggers and throwing missiles at us, and we can't stop that. But by God, we're going to take on the Chinese. And while we're at it, we're going to fight the Russians. Okay, get the bottle away from them. Take the syringe out of their hand. It's like a degenerate drug addict.
Yeah.
They are completely divorced from reality. And, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's the other thing to do.
Yeah.
And here's the reality is the ability of the United States to do is extremely limited, particularly in this year where you've got a presidential election. Do you think all the young people are lining up going, good Lord, I never thought about enlisting, and being drafted is a great idea. Plus, they're taking away my TikTok. I can't wait to vote.
Right. I can't wait to and you're going to send me to fight China? Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, they are devoid.
By the way, how are we going to get there? You're going to get on a ship that's completely vulnerable to the hypersonic missiles that China has, and we don't? Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, get on an aircraft carrier. Yeah, get on a sitting duck aircraft carrier from the 1970s. I mean, they are really devoid of reality right now. It's like me when I was in junior, in elementary school, and I thought I was going to play in the NBA. Yeah, it didn't happen. And, well, we'll see. We'll see if Vucic is right. 3 months, 3-month countdown is on. We'll see if Orban is right. The NATO expanding 3 additional bases and wants a hot war with Russia. We'll be watching all of this as we head into whoever replaces Joe Biden here in the next few weeks, as we head into this crazy 2024 election. Larry, you're going to be very busy. We're going to be busy.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately.
I know, what a crazy year. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Larry. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much as always, and we'll be checking back with you real soon.
Always a pleasure to be with you, man. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Larry. Really appreciate it. And so there you go, NATO. Thanks for agitating towards war. Hey, we have more news to get to here on your Tuesday. We're going to look at Biden going after farmers, making really onerous things for farmers to have to deal with right now, as if they don't have enough on their plate, enough on their farm.
Under the auspices of bird flu coming. Okay, we've been talking about bird flu. I could talk a whole blue streak about bird flu. We have, in fact, done just that. So is this really why they're doing this, or are they using bird flu to get the legislation they want to push back against farmers? So we have a guest coming on about that. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Pure Health Research, because this is a new sponsor here at Redacted, and it's a great company that specializes in natural supplements to help people just like you in their daily lives. They've helped more than 2 million Americans with their best-selling product, Liver Health Formula. Why is that so popular? Well, American Liver Foundation reports that 100 million Americans suffer from an overworked and sluggish liver. And a lot of that is for things that you really can't, filter out of your life. There are toxins in the air, microplastics, GMOs, fluoride in the water, all of this stuff that may be having an impact on your liver that you don't even know about. So that's why so many of us feel sluggish and overworked and have this overworked liver that makes us gain weight and feel tired all the time. But for decades, your liver has helped you with over 500 key functions. So it's time that you help your liver back. That's why we want to make sure that you check out the Liver Health Formula for yourself. It's a natural supplement with 11 clinically proven botanicals and key nutrients to rejuvenate and support your liver health. And right now, listeners of our show get this exclusive deal. They can try Liver Health Formula and receive 1 month's supply of nano-powered omega-3 to also support heart health. So right now, visit getliverhelp.com/redacted to claim your free bonus. One more time, that's getliverhelp.com/redacted. The Biden administration wants to put electronic tags on all bison and cattle that moves between state lines. They say they need to do this to track diseases such as the upcoming pandemic of bird flu, which we have talked about at great length. Now, yesterday, I was able to speak to Trent Luce. He's a 6th-generation livestock farmer, and he had a lot of really great perspective about this. He's a first-time Redacted guest, and I think you're really going to enjoy him. Watch. So the Biden administration wants to put electronic tags on all bison and cattle. Trent Luce is a 6th-generation U.S. farmer, and when I asked him, do you have an opinion about this? Your response is, does a monkey have climbing gear? Which was fun. So tell me, I love the euphemisms. Tell me, what is your response to this, first of all?
It is the one euphemism, Natalie, that we can get away with on public broadcast. There are others, right, but I chose to use the one that I learned from a dear friend of mine. We've been fighting this for quite some time. Many people don't know that in 2006, during George W. Bush administration, the same plan came out. The then Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Johans, announced in August of 2006 there would be a national ID system for all animals. We in the industry threw a fit, and basically it was pushed off in December of 2006. We knew that at some point in time it would be coming back. But the premise for why it's coming back should be alarming to everyone, not only in agriculture, but in all businesses, because the reason they're telling this is necessary is that we need to be able to track foreign animal diseases. And it's no coincidence after they plant, I say that intentionally, plant H5N1 in a group of breeding dairy heifers in Texas so that it can be spread around the nation in the high pathogen avian influenza. We all of a sudden need this national ID system. Sending out a press release last week, they being the USDA, saying that they've changed their final rule and they're going to modify it on June the 14th. And yet I go to the Federal Register, and the last bit of information, I did that just before you and I went on to make sure I'm still accurate, is May the 9th. Most interestingly, if this is not a ploy, why is it that they have strategically put this new rule into place for mandatory national ID system on all livestock, not just cattle, bison? They're talking about chickens and pigs and every animal that's transported across the state line. November the 5th, 2024 is the scheduled date for that to begin. What else happens that day, Natalie?
November the 5th, really?
November the 5th.
Okay,
Of
yeah, that's the election.
365 days of the year that this final rule could go into effect, they arbitrarily pick Election Day 2024. Go figure.
Okay, so what was the justification that the Bush administration had? Was it the same about tracking disease for this electronic tagging?
See, I'm actually really glad you asked that question, because for a while, the USDA tried to cloud the issue and say that this was somehow tied to bovine spongiform encephalopathy, that we can't have people getting variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease because we're still just 5 years what we call the cow that stole Christmas. And that was one cow that tested positive in the United States in December of 2001 for bovine spongiform encephalopathy. But here's the deal. We did not have a national ID mandatory tracking system in place in 2001. And yet within 36 hours, our USDA knew exactly what farm in Canada and how many farms this once had been to before it tested positive for BSE. So without a national ID tracking system, we knew exactly where that animal came from. I'm a person who transports horses, cattle, and pigs across state lines today. The 8 layers of bureaucracy that we currently have accomplish everything that they tell us they want to accomplish in tracking a foreign animal disease. But back in 2001 through 2006, they wanted to cloud the vision and say that, well, this is a food safety. In no way, shape, or form does this have 1% emphasis on food safety. It is 100% about accelerating the process of tracking foreign animal disease, which we currently have in place. So then the next argument they come up with is, well, there are countries around the world that do not allow us to sell and export our products if we do not have a foreign animal disease tracking ability. What country is that? Because we're currently selling record amounts into China. We're maintaining our market into Japan, despite Japan having a serious issue with their economic situation. And our number one partner, Mexico, continues to buy our products. So it's continually a smokescreen, artificially want to increase the cost of doing business so that milk, meat, and eggs, the vital essential elements of healthy living, are not readily available and affordable to the consumer. That, at the end of the day, is really what we want to put in place. And the other thing that's happening right now, and I have documents now that I can forward to you, that in 2013, we had a group of scientists that sent the Obama administration sharing their concern from the University of Minnesota that they were very alarmed at what this gain of function research was doing with high-path avian influenza and making it more aggressive, and so that we were able to jump species. Well, in 2014, they finished that gain of function research. And now, by bringing this final rule for USDA RFID mandatory tag, they are just bringing a heightened sense of fear that somehow this avian influenza, this H5N1 that we're dealing with right now, is going to be a problem for you and your family. It's tied to fear mongering. It's not tied to science or traceability of a foreign animal disease.
Right. And so one of the things that Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie said, that this new law would mean that the government will know where every animal is and who owns it. But it would seem that they're pretty close to knowing that already from what you just described.
In fact, they send out a farm census that we as farmers and ranchers are told that we have to sign up for, and we have to verify what we have and every single animal. Quite frankly, we all know there's not one secret today in the world in terms of what we have, where it's at, or where it's going. All of the information is clearly right there. In fact, I found a way. It was just a couple of years ago, I sent one animal to the state of Arizona without proper health papers to cross the state line. I paid the price. I got a visit from the USDA inspector. I promised to never do that again. And all of that was that without a mandatory ID system. They know
Wow.
all of the time what's happening everywhere.
So, what kind of warnings besides this are farmers getting about bird flu to look for it? Because we cover a lot that the World Health Organization is increasing the volume at which they say they're going to watch this. So, are they putting this to you as well?
In fact, this morning, the state of Minnesota has announced that any animal that goes to exhibit, whether that be to a fair, whether it be transporting in an animal, 100% testing must occur. You know, we need to keep in mind the severity of testing positive. The cows in Texas that were this all incubated, they had a few issues, few symptoms that were problematic in terms of decreased milk production and a small percentage of the herd, zero death loss. They continued to blame it on migratory fowl, and they say that this is so dangerous. These migratory fowl are infecting these cows as they transfer from South America to Canada for the summer. And it was that dead migratory fowl continued to be alive to transport the disease.
Right.
And now we have reported 3 people that
Yeah.
have tested positive for H5N1, and 2 of those had a pink eye symptom.
Right.
We once again see sensationalism, fear-mongering that we need the American public to rise above. And really, it's an attack on the cost of milk, meat, and eggs. Again, I repeat, the essentials for maintaining a healthy immune system and fighting off all diseases that we come in contact with.
Yes, I believe you. That is also my nutritional philosophy. One of the things that I just don't understand is that they're always hitting at farmers for their environmental impact, even though we know that they use doctored numbers to talk about how much livestock impacts the environment. But you're going to add to that by adding electronics to the mix. So that burden, and then also the burden of cost, will go to the farmers. Am I correct?
100% goes to the farmer, which ultimately ends up with the consumer, and it's cost prohibitive to the farmer. At every turn, what happens is the small producers cannot comply, and ultimately it forces more consolidation and control into the food system, which is how it directly impacts the consumer. Natalie, one quick thing that just came out before you and I started this conversation. We both know, and you alluded to it, that cows are contributing to climate change. Well, that's a load of fecal matter because cows consume grass. Grass absorbs CO2 and nutrients from the atmosphere to help it grow, and cows are contributing to methane production. As we speak, there's a new study that came out of Romania that said, guess what? We've determined the best answer for mitigating climate change, reintroducing bison so that they can graze and they walk through the 179 million tons of CO2 that it removes from the atmosphere. So bison and cattle, who are cousins, who both consume forages and use a ruminant to convert that into the most nutrient-dense food substance on the planet, the bison are the answer and the cows are the problem. People are beginning to see through this and say, what do I really need to be consuming these animal products for? Because there's something they don't want me to know. It is that they make you healthy and will give you the ability to withstand any toxin you come in contact with. Just quickly, in 1898, I learned this during COVID because I went researching. In 1888, a group of scientists documented that the yolk from an egg, when you consume eggs, and the yolk from an egg will actually identify toxins in your gut and neutralize the toxin. So why have they been telling us for all of these years that don't eat eggs because it contributes to cholesterol problems? Oh wait, cholesterol contributes to vitamin D and also your hormones. We need cholesterol. That's another lie. It's one more lie in the government lie train that we need to stop.
Yeah. I want to ask one more general question. Is we see the demonization of livestock farmers right before our very eyes. It's undeniable. I wonder if you have friends who are agricultural farmers or colleagues that maybe you think have it easier. Do you think the government is making it easier for agricultural farmers?
No, there is no farmer the government is making it easier for.
Okay.
One thing that is my real concern, Natalie, is that we have crop farmers who are being put in a corner and being forced to take a conservation easement with the promise that will allow them to continue to farm for some period of time. Mm-hmm. It's just a government payment that is going to end a slow death instead of a quick one.
Yeah. In fact, I've had tax accountants suggest that because that's what the government, anytime you get a tax credit or some kind of favorable way to present your taxes, it means the government wants that to happen. And they've decided that. So yeah, the conservation easements are popular in terms of
winners and losers.
Yes,
and the
exactly
with the
right.
Biggest money for the lobbying pool are the winners, and those of us who are just trying to make a living from the land and taking care of the land as God intended, the deck is stacked against us. We continue to fight though because nobody has the resilience that we do.
So you can follow along Trent Loos Fight on X at Trent Loos, as @ Trent Loos. Is there anything else you'd like our viewers to follow you along?
My Substack, trentloos.substack.com, or my website, loosetalesmedia.com. And Natalie, make sure you spell Loose Tales correctly or you'll get in trouble. LOOSTALES. The other Loose Tales is not good. loosetalesmedia.com.
Okay, very good. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on Redacted for the first time. I hope it's not the last. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you for the invitation. I'll see you soon.
Okay. All right, so let us know what you think of this legislation around livestock farming. And some of those studies that he mentions, he actually sent me as a follow-up, and I want to share those things with you in the newsletter because it floored me. What he said about eggs being a toxin, he followed up with a study. And again, I want to talk about this more at length, so stay tuned to Redacted. There was a study that he sent me from October of 2020 showing that eggs could neutralize COVID. This was right before the COVID vaccine rollout. A study showed that eggs were an important way of fighting eggs.
No wonder they kept that one hidden.
No wonder they
eggs, you guys.
No wonder
and then
they
all the
became so
egg
expensive.
farms. Yes, and then all the egg farms started blowing up, right?
Yeah, isn't it convenient?
And it's funny because
convenient.
I never got COVID, and I literally eat at least half a dozen eggs a day, every day.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you are the case study that we were looking for.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So that and the bison study that he talks about, we're going to talk about that further as well. So super interesting, super interesting.
Yeah, that's no yoke. All right, we got more news to get to here on your Tuesday. We're going to talk about Title IX being struck down. We're also going to talk about the New York City illegal immigrant problem. You know, that city, of course, wanted to be a sanctuary city. Joke's on them, because now it's ruined their city and it's collapsing under the weight of illegal immigrants. That's what happens when you want to become a sanctuary city. San Francisco wants to be a sanctuary city for transgender.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens.
Since.
They just announced that this past week. So let's see how that goes for San Francisco as well. We got more news, but first,
we're going to tell you about our friends at Lear Capital, because did you know that gold is now the second most popular global currency among central banks, ahead of the euro now and just behind the dollar? That's crazy, right? Just today I was watching, I don't know if you like this guy on Twitter, Professor Peter St. Onge. He was talking about how most analysis of the de-dollarization assume that paper money has to dethrone the king dollar. But what if, he puts it this way, what if the dollar slayer is right under our nose and it's gold? And it has been all along. Well, that is certainly how gold has performed recently. So if you are interested in building up your portfolio of precious metals, well, then you can go to Lear Capital and let them teach you how to get started. Now, you can invest with cash, obviously. You can buy portions of gold, or you can use something that you may not even know, which is your retirement account. So either your IRA or your 401k, you can invest in a self-directed version of those. This is not the stocks and bonds that your employer offers you in your 401k. This is you do it yourself, and they can totally teach you how, from soup to nuts. Soup to nuts. Is there from gold to silver, from soup to gold to whatever?
That's right.
You too can have the Midas touch. And really, they help you learn how to do this. So you can go to LearRedacted.com, or you can call them at 800-613-3557. Just give them a call. Tell them what you've got, what your goals are, and how you want to get started. Because you guys, We've been telling you about Lear for a long time. And since we have been doing this, the value of these metals has gone up and up and up. So if you've been waiting, stop waiting. Just decide, I'm going to learn this now. Go to learredacted.com.
And they have their new de-dollarization report out as well that you should go grab. It's a fantastic report. Like if you want to know what's happening right now with the de-dollarization process, they just released a brand new totally free report that you can get on the website as well. Just go to learredacted.com and grab that free report.
Indeed. Well, a federal court has struck down Title IX in 6 states. Those are the 6 states that sued to stop it. Now, this is the law that the Biden administration put into place to destroy women's rights in education. The states now that have this, they no longer have to implement them, meaning this would be a good place to go to college, ladies, is Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Now look how this opinion, this court decision started. This is shocking, right? In the year 2024, that a court has to say this and that they had the ovaries to say it.
They had the balls to say it.
The lack of balls to say it. This is the opinion. There are 2 sexes, male and female. That's how the court puts down this ruling. Now, why do they have to say this in the year 2024? Because we don't know that by default any longer. But they lay out the fact that Title IX was meant to give women an advantage that they don't already have in certain places. For instance, some sports are more popular for men, so women don't get the funding for their sports. Historically, colleges had more resources, let's say for dormitories or classrooms for boys. So Title IX made it so that the schools would have to invest equally so that women had equal opportunity in sports, in scholarship, in housing, in study programs, all of this. Now, the states had argued that, what the Biden administration wanted to do was say that Title IX programs could be used by men whose gender identity was women. So you no longer had to be a biological woman to take advantage of these programs, which meant that men can and do self-identify into programs where they would have these advantages that were not meant for them. They were meant for biological women. And the states had argued that forcing them to expand the definition of biological sex to gender identification would violate their First Amendment right to define women as women. And the court ruled that the states correctly argued that the new rule redefining sex to include gender identity would violate government employees' First Amendment rights and is the result of arbitrary and capricious rulemaking. And if the new rule is allowed to take effect in August, all plaintiffs will suffer immediate and irreparable harm. So they were not really arguing this on behalf of the women. They took a really interesting tact and said, yes, but we have the right to say this is a man. We don't play into that person's identity. And they argued it on that behalf. Now, Title IX also, the Biden Title IX, so we're talking about 2 Title IXs. The Biden version had said that you can punish people for not using preferred pronouns. And we're going to look at that in a second. Now, again,
Holy cow. So
go ahead.
I could just decide I want to go to college. I'm a college kid. I just got out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm going to identify as a woman so that I can go live in women's dorms.
Yes,
I can
you
shower
could.
with women.
Yes,
I can
you
do
could.
all that stuff. And then when I graduate, take my degree and be back a man again.
You could do that, I suppose. Your degree would have your preferred name on it. So I don't know if
That's
if
true.
That would, if you want to,
Yeah.
you'd have to choose an androgynous name. But also, yes, you could also use women's scholarships as well and fellowships, and you could apply for those and win them as well. And we saw in the Supreme Court case that struck down, say it, where you get into school by your nationality. Oh my God.
What, affirmative
action? Yes, that was not coming in. We saw in the court case against affirmative action how administrators use diversity as if it's candy, like, ooh, let's trade this one for that one. And they're looking for the most diverse candidate to put into their program. So you know that that transgender is a card in the sort of woke victimology game, right? Oh, that light behind me just went off. So again, what I'm saying is that, what am I saying? Is that Title IX would destroy this for women. So I think it's in order to go over what Title IX would do under the Biden administration, I'm going to leave it to the redhead libertarian to explain it because she does it so eloquently.
So according to Riley Gaines, the Biden regime has just abolished Title IX as we know it. Sex now equals gender. This means that men can now take athletic scholarships from women. Men can now take academic scholarships from women. Men will have full access to women's spaces on campus. This includes their bathrooms and their locker rooms. Men will now be housed in dorms with women. Student and faculty will have their speech compelled to respect pronouns of these individuals. If you ignore these guidelines, if you question these guidelines, you can be charged with harassment. So I only have one question. Where the are these bitches? What are you doing? Where the is your sea of pink? You know what's worse than having to drive out of state to get your health care? Abolishing the equal protection of women, forcing women to undress in front of men, not letting them question that because they'll be sued, compelling their speech, stripping them of their victories, stripping them of their medals, stripping them of their scholarships, violating their spaces, violating their due process. You can still get your abortions. Make a road trip out of it. I don't give a but you're no longer a woman according to the Biden regime. This has been stripped away from you by subpar men. Parade about that. Wear your pink hats about that. Hug each other about that. Cry about that. Get mad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like libs of TikTok yesterday. I mean, posted a family was allegedly kicked out of an Angel City Beer in Los Angeles because a mother complained about a man invading a woman's bathroom, and the restaurant says it's against their policy to disagree with a person's trans person identity. Mm-hmm. So now that's exploded. I mean, this is, why is like libs of TikTok the only one getting mad about it?
Yeah.
Like we need the pink hats back and doing their job.
Right. So what she talks about due process is really interesting because the new Title IX, the Biden Title IX. Now we're going to have two versions of Title IX. The Title IX that will revert to the old version in these 6 states, and then presumably the other states will be enforcing the Biden version. And in the Biden version of Title IX, you don't have due process. We return to what's called kangaroo courts. What that means is under the Trump administration, Secretary Betsy DeVos, Education Secretary, she changed Title IX to allow anyone who is ever accused of a Title IX violation to have a real investigation. So you're supposed to be notified of your offense, showed the evidence against you, and allowed a live hearing and a cross-examination. But before this, in the Obama years and before, Title IX violators were subject to a single university investigator, and they were not allowed to defend themselves. So Trump put in due process, not Trump specifically, but Betsy DeVos, and then the Biden administration, for whatever reason, decided, no, that was good. Let's go back to that. So in fact, they put back the Title IX kangaroo courts. And the Biden administration says, yeah, that's good. Let's leave it. So what that means, like, because now the Biden version of Title IX says that you have to use preferred pronouns, if you are shown misgendering somebody or using their dead name or whatever it is they want to accuse you of, you can no longer defend yourself. Here's a list that FIRE, the free speech advocacy group, put together. It says they jettison the requirement of unwelcome conduct and harassment and that it be severe and pervasive. So instead, anyone who says that you sexually offended them in any way will be accused of harassment. They no longer require schools to provide a hearing at which students could cross-examine the accusers, allow colleges to use just a single investigator, scrap the requirement that the accused be guaranteed access to evidence against them. So you get no due process. So you can think about, you send your nice kid to school. Maybe they have a problem with a man in the women's dressing room, and your daughter maybe says this to somebody. They accuse her of being transphobic and put her in front of a kangaroo court. She can't defend herself. She can't know what evidence they have. And then she's got her reputation ruined for life because of this now kangaroo court that will happen in Biden's version of Title IX, but not in these 6 states.
And if she's not entitled to know the evidence, then that means there could be none,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because who would know it if they don't present it?
You're right. That's absolutely right. And it's just a single investigator. It's not a person he doesn't even have to be trained in any kind of justice or criminal justice or anything like that. It could just be this sort of DEI hire that is looking out for offenses and is just, I mean, you could, in theory, even look back through someone's social media and decide, oh, they were a proponent of J.K. Rowling. Let's look out for this athlete. Or, oh, they liked Riley Gaines. Well, that already puts a target on their back, and then go after them. And who will be doing this investigating? Here is former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos saying it's a U-turn to the bad old days where sexual misconduct was sent to campus kangaroo courts and not resolved in a way that actually sought justice. And so that's what this single investigator model is. It returns adjudications to the preponderance of the evidence standard, where essentially a coin flip about guilt or innocence can remove a student from campus or tarnish their reputation for life. And again, we know that this is giving power to the accusers. And again, this, the weaponization of transphobic, homophobic, whatever it is, as soon as a man is in a single space and you don't want that, you're called transphobic. And then what can happen to you? So universities are staffed for this, though, because they've hired more DEI and diversity hires in the last decade than professors. That is single-handedly why tuition is going up in American universities. It's not because they've invested in education. They have not. They're investing in these other programs. In fact, this week I was reading a book called It's Not Free Speech, and these idiots argue that in addition to DEI investigative groups, we also should have free speech investigative groups. And if a professor says something you don't like, it needs to go through that committee. So they're arguing for even more administrators. But this was interesting. They say, with no proof at all, nothing in this book had any proof, it was awful, that DEI officers have a high burnout rate, that they just get tired of recommending that all these tenured professors be punished. And then the universities don't punish tenured professors because they have tenure. And so it's a really hard job to be a DEI administrator in the universities. Do you hear the violins for them?
I'm so sad about that.
Yeah.
People.
Isn't that interesting? High burnout rate, they say. But that's costing you your tuition. So that's interesting. So again, if you want to go to college, ladies, I might look into these 6 states where you have access to single-sex spaces still. Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Your state at least sued to protect your rights. The other states are guilty of being a fake feminist, as this person put it on Twitter. I really like this. Shout out to the feminists that worked hard for equal rights and protection for women, only to vote for people that are taking those rights away from their own daughters. Hashtag Title IX. So if your state was not one of these, maybe talk to your representatives and see why not.
All right. Well, we've got more news to get to here on the show. JJ Carroll is going to be joining us on his whirlwind tour of the United States, uncovering the dark, dark secrets of the illegal immigration debacle that's destroying the United States right now. His latest trip has taken him to New York City and Boston and Philadelphia. We're going to touch base with him before he flies out to talk about New York City in just a moment. We will get there in a second. But first, in today's economic climate, many of us are finding ourselves facing a challenge of managing our monthly expenses. High-end credit card interest rates can trap people in a cycle of debt. Right now, credit card debt in the United States is at an all-time high. Balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take years to become debt-free. So reach out to our friends at American Financing, a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. If you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity, help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers save $854 a month. That's equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. The process is pretty straightforward and quick. You can close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. And it costs nothing to see how much you can save. So this opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore. Call their number right now on your screen. It's 866-890-8434. That's 866-890-8434. Or visit their website, americanfinancing.net/redacted. That's the link that you have to use to let them know that you came from us. americanfinancing.net/redacted. We'll have a link in the description of this video in case you need to go there and check it out as well. That's NMLS 182334, NMLS consumeraccess.org. APR rates for 5%. APR for rates in the 5 start at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Again, call 1-866-890-8434 for details about credit costs and terms right now. So our thanks to AmericanFinancing.net for supporting the show. Well, if you go to any liberal city across the United States, you're likely to be met with the same thing. City resources stretched beyond repair, a wave of criminality, businesses closed up. Who wants to do business when everyone breaks into your store on a regular basis? All thanks, of course, to the flood of illegal immigrants in these so-called sanctuary cities. And nowhere is that more apparent than when you visit New York City. Walk into any random hotel throughout the city, and you might be met by a security guard who will tell you, sorry, you have to leave. And you'll say, why? This is a hotel. And they'll say, not anymore. That's because now it's home to hundreds of illegal immigrants living in these particular hotels. That's exactly what J.J. Carroll just uncovered in his latest investigation in New York City. Of course, J.J. spent 24 years as a Customs and Border Protection supervisor. He's building a brand new documentary called Treason, and it's taken him all over the country into the darkest recesses of the United States right now, from the U.S. border to New York City to liberal cities in between. And his latest investigation brought him to the liberal East Coast. God help us all. JJ joins us now to talk about his latest jaunt to New York City, a place that I used to call home. I used to go to work in Midtown Manhattan, JJ, right there, Fox News, right there next to Times Square, right there next to 30 Rockefeller Center, and do my job. But not anymore. This is an absolute disaster zone, I guess.
It is a disaster zone. And let me just tell you a quick story. This tells you how big New York City's gigantic, right? You live there. It's overwhelming, the size. But the illegal alien invasion and what's happening there equals the size of New York City. And let me give you an example. I fly in, Ryan Matta, my business partner and film crew of our documentary, This is Treason. We get off our flight. We're going to go to our Airbnb because we want to unload all of our cameras and stuff, because we're going to be kind of all over the city in kind of really bad areas. So we want to unload it. So we pump it in the GPS, the address, and off we go. We end up in like this parking lot off a street in New York City, and I'm looking at up there. It's like a 10-story hotel, and I'm like, okay, well maybe it's like a condo or apartment complex that they rent out. I don't know. It's New York City. Just roll with it. So as we're walking to the door, I'm looking around, and there's people meandering around. There's a stack of bikes pushed up with strollers and clothes. And I'm like, what in God's name is this? And as I approach the entrance to the hotel or the apartment complex, a security guard like comes out of nowhere, and it's like right in my face. And he goes, can't come in here. And Ryan and I were kind of like startled, and we're like, well, no, we're trying to show him we have reservations for Airbnb. And he's like, no. And Ryan starts to not have an argument with him, but just trying to explain to him. And when he's doing that, I'm looking around, and then it clicks. And I look right at the security guard, and I go, this is a migrant shelter, isn't it? And he goes, yes.
Wow.
And I go, oh my God. And we looked at the address, and Ryan goes, I put the wrong digit in. So our Airbnb was just like a block away. That shows you the enormity, Clayton, of this situation, that they're everywhere. And it's nondescript. You have no idea. There's no signage. There's nothing. But there's hundreds of those. People don't know that 50% of all hotels in New York City are contracted for illegal aliens.
50%?
The rest of the 50%, yes, and growing.
Oh my God.
And then there was an article came out 2 weeks ago where they showed that it's supply and demand, right? So everyone's coming to New York City, everybody visits, go to business. But the hotel, the other 50%, because of supply and demand, their nightly rates are skyrocketing. So you're talking about billions of dollars of taxpayer money that are housing hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens in New York City. They stay there for free. So they get free housing, free meals a day, free laundry service, their cell phones. And we're walking around some of these I hate saying migrant shelters, illegal alien shelters. And I'm looking at men walk around with ankle bracelets on, like the monitors. And I'm like, God, they're everywhere. And then we went down one that I have to tell you about. I showed, and you sent you the video.
Before you get that, what are the ankle bracelets for? These have been individuals who've been arrested and they're out on some sort of probation and they're being tracked, or what?
Wow, this is a great question. I'm glad you asked me, because I apologize for just going over it because I'm so used to this insanity. So this is called Alternative to Detention, ATD. So under the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, it is against the law to release illegal aliens into America. It's against the law. So then you ask, well, how are they releasing all these people? Well, Mayorkas came out with this alternative to detention, and he said, well, they're still detained because I either put an ankle monitor on them or I give them a brand new iPhone and I track them. So they are still detained. It's like me. Clayton, I know you think I'm making this up. It's crazy. I wrote it in my book because it's so insane. So I rob a bank and the judge says, JJ, you're going to go to jail for 8 years in San Quentin. Oh, dear God, 8 years. Don't worry. I'm going to put an ankle monitor on you and you're still detained. You just go wherever you want in America, but you just have to check in every now and then. Holy cow, yeah, I'll do that. So when you see these people wearing these big bracelets, ankle monitors, understand that they're under this program, and they have done studies, FOIA requests, where the people that are, this is a third party, monitors them. They're like, yeah, we have no idea where they are, because they cut them off and they throw them away. Or they take the SIM cards out of their and they get new SIM cards, and no one knows where anybody, it's all a lie. Basically what I'm telling you, it's all a lie. But they're all over New York City, but they're all over America. There's millions of people. I mean, if you want to get into something that's crazy, I mean, it's Orwellian. We actually went to, they call these places reticketing centers. Have you heard this?
No.
So reticketing means, so you had DeSantis and Abbott flying illegal aliens or busing them into New York. The liberal left goes crazy and says that's racist and that's terrible. Well, actually, New York City now is flying people out of New York City and paying for it. And it's called a reticketing center. So if I'm an illegal alien, I come into the center and I say, I want to go to Hawaii. I want to go to Brazil. I want to go wherever. They will get you a ticket out one way, and you have to sign a document saying you'll never come back to New York City. It's insane. So you're looking at thousands of flights every day going out. So you're looking at billions of dollars. New York City is probably costing them $3 to $4 billion a year. And I'm looking at a city that's crumbling. Like I drove around and I'm like, well, $1 billion here and $1 billion there would make a difference. No. Give it to all the illegal aliens. Give it all to them.
It's unbelievable. And I interrupted you. You were describing seeing really a disastrous part of New York City as you were driving around. Can you explain that before I interrupted you?
Oh yeah, it's a place called Hall Street, and it's another nondescript illegal alien holding facility. And the way that you know that you're approaching one of these places is out of nowhere. You know, you live in New York City, it's bustling. People are moving, right? And you gotta, if you're not moving, you're in the way. Not in these shelters, in these areas. So the moment you start to get near one of these, and they're nondescript, there's no markings, there's no nothing. All of a sudden you begin to see hordes of men just hanging out doing nothing. Literally just sitting, and they take over the whole city block. So we're going down Hall Street, we turn, and even I'm riding with my co-host on my podcast, Brian O'Shea, former intel analyst embedded with special forces in Afghanistan, in the Middle East. Even he was like, oh my God, because we turned a corner and there's several hundred men dressed kind of like the way you see men dress in pictures in the continent of Africa and the Middle East, just sitting there roaming around the city block. all no women, no children, all single adult military age men from continent Africa, the Middle East, and Haiti. And you're like, whoa, well, hold on. What just happened? Where did I end up? And I said, Brian, tell me about this neighborhood. He goes, well, right across the street, this is upper middle class. They're putting these men right in the upper middle class areas because they have to put them all over the city. They can't just squeeze them down into Queens or something like that. So you are having hundreds, if not 1,000 military age adult males in one little small building, nondescript. So you just drive by. If you don't see them meandering around in hordes, you have no idea what's going on. None. They've hidden them in plain sight. And what I told Brian, and I told Ryan too, I said, you got to make sure of this. I said, get this on camera because I need the audience to understand this. This is shocking to see, right? Just 200, 300 of these men. It's shocking, right? Because they're aggressive. They look angry. They look perturbed. I said, that's not concerning to me. Concerning to me is they represent millions. Tens of millions of those men are in our country. Not hundreds of thousands, which is already unnerving, but I'm telling you, millions. 30 million people have come into the United States of America under Joe Biden. Prior to that, 22 to 25. We're around 50, 52 million illegal aliens in America. I'm telling you, tens of millions are single adult military age men in America. Do the math. Play it out. Do some critical thinking. This does not end well. It just doesn't.
Had you been to New York City a number of years ago and then came back now to see the difference? Have you seen a dramatic change at all in this city? Is it a totally different place now?
It's a totally different place, but I'm going to give you a little. So I played on a football team that was made up of law enforcement officers, and we played other teams. So we played New York Police Department at Floyd Bennett Field. Mm-hmm. Okay. That didn't register to me until we went out to Floyd Bennett Field to look at the giant migrant center they created. So I'm driving there and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, Floyd Bennett, I've been here about 8 years ago. They had carnivals and it was beautiful. It was like a lower middle class neighborhood, but it was vibrant. And I'm driving around, I'm like, oh my God, I've been here before. Oh my God, what happened? And I'm driving in the middle of this, it's like a wooded area with a river and there's a lot of camping. No, they took it over in the middle of nowhere and built it. It's a FEMA camp. It has to hold between 2,000 and 4,000 people. But as you and I discussed in our prior time together, I didn't see 2,000 to 4,000 people there. I saw tens. I didn't see 500, 600, 700 workers that should be monitoring and working. I saw 10. So why is there a FEMA camp to hold thousands of illegal aliens and there's tens of illegal aliens in there? And it goes back to what we talked about before. You're building FEMA camps or detention facilities across the United States of America. For who?
For dissidents.
There's no one in there. Clayton, there's no one. Clayton, I drove by there. You have to go in. It's like a semicircle around it, right? And they have this buffer zone where you can't walk anywhere near the center. So you have to drive around. I would say the half circle of that driving around is 3 miles. Like that's how big the camp is to drive around. And I'm like, okay, I get on one end, I drive back around. I'm like, dear God, this place is huge. It's holding anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 people. It was $28 million to build that. $28 million, probably with millions of dollars a month to maintain. And Clayton, there's no one in it. There's no one in it.
And yet they're taking over these hotels all throughout New York City clandestinely, so you don't even know they're there. Mm-hmm. All from Times Square, all the way up to the Upper West Side, down to down to Wall Street, down to Queens, all over the place. You have these illegal immigrant hotels now being taken over, but these FEMA camps are set up and there's no one there. And they're happening across all 50 states. It's very
that should make you at least pause, right?
Yeah.
And think about, okay, our government interned Japanese Americans, tens of thousands of them. They have done experimental testing on us, on U.S. citizens of all races and nationalities throughout the history of America. So why would you be shocked that our government now would do that to us? They're there. I mean, I think it's an honest, logical question to ask. Why are you building all these facilities and there's no one in them? Or they're just their capacity. I mean, your vacancy, and you have like 5% people in there out of 100%. But also, I think what needs to be stated too is there is an overwhelming feeling of criminality in New York City. I know that I have to kind of cut myself away from it because I already have this built into me in law enforcement that I'm expecting something. But there is an overwhelming feeling, and I've asked people that were around me, do you feel this too? Is it just me as a law enforcement guy? No, we feel it. And then you look at the crime statistics. Look, Mayor Adams and his city council, all Democrats, are proposing and trying to figure out a way to remove the sanctuary status laws out of their city. Because what they're doing is they're arresting illegal aliens. They can't turn them over to ICE because of special interest, because of the sanctuary cities. Then, because they have no bail, they're just releasing them. So you're arresting all these illegal aliens. They're coming out. You have illegal aliens shooting at cops, beating up U.S. citizens. Prostitution is off the chart. They're trying to legalize prostitution. But I tell people, listen, Mayor Adams doesn't have to legalize prostitution. All he has to do is go down to the chief of police and say, don't make that a priority, right? And I'm seeing that because I'm walking the streets and I'm like, oh my God, that's a brothel. Everybody knows it is. If I can see it, I just got here. Everyone else knows it, but they do nothing about it. So you're seeing the destruction, as we've talked about many times, illegal immigration and invasion, the tentacles of criminality just keep growing and reaching every fabric of our society.
All in these liberal cities, all in these sanctuary cities. And it sounds good on paper. They love to promote this idea. But then once the chickens come home to roost, then you have this major problem. And you're seeing it in full effect right now. My guest has been JJ Carroll. Again, the documentary is called This Is Treason. Go to thisistreason.com if you want to pre-order the documentary. It comes out in September. And we're thrilled that JJ has been able to send us these different dispatches here on your journey. I know you're heading to Philadelphia, which my home city. I don't even want to see. I don't even want to talk to you about that mess. That's going to be a total disaster. But continued great work on all of this, and we can't wait to see the documentary come together. We'll have a link in the description for people if they want to pre-order the documentary. Our audience has been amazing in pre-ordering this, so go to thisistreason.com and you can pre-order the documentary. JJ, thank you so much for taking time out as you're traveling the country right now. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Clayton. Have a great day.
Well, thanks, JJ. Thanks so much for joining us. And JJ now off to Philadelphia to cover that crazy city, my home city of Philly. Oh, my God, I don't even want to see. But hopefully at least he can get some good news and go down to like John's Roast Pork in South Philly and get the best cheesesteak in all of Philadelphia, by the way. But to see all the craziness there, it's really sad to see these cities, these liberal cities, descend into absolute chaos. So thanks, JJ, and thanks to him for doing this amazing documentary. Go ahead, David.
What doesn't make sense is like they've tried open air drugs. They've tried lowering being criminalized for less than $900 today, and now they want to do this. It's like, are they going to learn? Like none of this has worked. Nothing.
Well, you see the state of Oregon is actually learning because the governor reversed the bill that decriminalized drugs after they realized property crimes were going up and deaths were going up. So they're like, this is not working. So that is at least an encouraging move, showing that, this is not working.
I guess I'm speaking more to San Francisco. I just don't like to always point that out because that's your home. That's your home. I don't want to.
I get it.
Keep bashing
I get it. I know. It's a pastime on this show. You guys like to dump on the Bay Area, and I get it. I mean, we make it easy for you. That's a hobby of Clayton's too, is to just crap on my hometown. All right. Well, before we go, that's going to wrap up our news for today. But first, we want to tell you about our show sponsor, which is Ground News. Now, Ground News is a great way to figure out what is the spin in any given media story. So something comes up, let's say the story this weekend about how Joe Biden is demented, and you think, am I being manipulated in any way? Is there a spin on this? And if you put it in Ground News or you go to Ground News, what they will show you on each story is whether it has a more conservative or liberal bent. And it will show you if you're like, well, okay, but I agreed with that story. Is there something that maybe I'm not seeing? Well, you can click over to the opposite side of the spectrum and read a different bent of coverage from any given story. So it gives you a sense of how different media may be covering or not covering any given story, and it will rate it. Like you can see the sort of spectrum line from below, and it shows you this is maybe more liberal, this is less liberal, this is more conservative, this is not. I use it quite a bit, like I said, because I realize that the algorithm thinks something of me, and I have to go out of my way to see the other side of any given topic. So it's great for that, but it's also great for you to just understand, tell it what your politics is and filter out or filter in so that you get a more biased, a less biased. Nobody wants a more biased. We don't want that.
Also,
right?
I'm so glad they're a sponsor. I have the premium. I've been using that app for quite a while. And I had no idea they were a sponsor. That's really cool. I love
They're
the
a
app.
relatively new sponsor.
I love them every morning when we're working on the newsletter, preparing for the show. I mean, I love going through the website and seeing that it was covering a story specifically today about NATO and looking at all like the Financial Times version of it, RT's version, Sputnik's version of it. And you can see all of the different takes on it in one app. It's really, really great. And the best part is you're going to get 40% off unlimited access right now, 40% off. If you guys go to ground.news/redacted, and there's a QR code right there on the screen, which you can scan as well. It's ground.news/redacted to get 40% off unlimited access right now. Well, everyone, that's our final show in this studio. This has been an amazing studio, an amazing run here. We're building a brand new studio, and we're in the process of working on all of that. So in that transition period, while we're moving studios, and I don't know if you can take the two shot here, or the slider shot here, Philip. You can see like there's ladders. There's ladders in here. There's boxes. There's boxes all over the place in the studio. So yeah, this is our final show here in the studio on this Tuesday night.
Your final opportunity to see this fine line down
everyone,
the center.
The crack in the table that everyone says
bothers people to no end.
The people like, can you just rotate the table? No, because we have cameras. If you take the slider shot, Philip, you can see like there's cameras attached to the table and everything, and so we'd have to like disconnect everything and all of that. So
and plus, I like the idea of my own space. So maybe in the new studio we'll just do like a dividing line, like siblings.
Yeah, we'll put a yellow.
We might stick with that. I don't know.
I already got that covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
But anyway, so this is our final live show in this studio, in this space. But we're going to take about a week and a half to 2 weeks off over the July 4th holiday as we're moving and transitioning to the new studio and all of that craziness, testing out cameras, testing out lights, sound, all of that. In the meantime, though, we're going to have lots of great interviews and content for you that we've already done that we think will be really valuable to you. So that will be out here on the channel. In the meantime, we'll still have the newsletter. So that'll be cranking along as well.
Yeah, there's some that I'm really excited for you to see. We've been, filming these as we've been producing the daily news for you. And so I don't keep secrets very well. So I'm like, oh, that was such a good interview. I can't wait till that goes live. So you definitely want to stick around.
That's right. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us here. Our final sign off in this studio. You guys are fantastic. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Make sure you turn on that bell notification so you'll know when we're back live again right after the July 4th holiday. But you guys are amazing. And we'll see you in the new digs real soon. Have a great night, everyone.